Hello and welcome to my Tuesday night live painting demo. I'm feeling like I'm in a little bit of a mellow mood tonight. I didn't do a whole lot of promoting of this video, and so I think there's just going to be a few people tuning in tonight. I managed to put a little bit of a quick video on my story. Maybe a few of you saw that, and that's why you're here. I even had a hard time choosing the photo that I wanted to work from. I changed my mind half a dozen times in the last few hours. But I'm doing a painting of this young boy that you can see here. He's the the title of the photo said birthday glow, so I assume that he's being underlit from the candles from his birthday cake. I hope you can see my palette tonight. I have an angle so some of you requested that you can see it. And I am going to just get right to work here. Before I do, I'm just going to type in something real quick just to say let me know where you are watching from. And please don't hesitate to ask. I'm not sure how chatty I'll be tonight. I may just get into a painting mode and go from there. Let's see if I can get a little bit of a gray value down for just doing a quick lay-in sketch. Um, Now this photo, it does not have a lot of detail. I mean, it's interesting from the lighting perspective, and I was a little bit worried about it that even in the nose where you can see that there's sort of the interesting underlighting, you really can't make out the forms in the nose that easily. So I'm going to have to do a fair amount of guesstimating where things are. Let's see if I'm how far I am off with this drawing here. So cheek. I know the chin's got to be higher than where I just put it. Right there. And I want to get where the center line of the chin is. So right about here is the center line. And he has an angle to the forms in his face. And a center line, something like this. And kind of a shallow angle to his jaw. And the connection between the ear and the jawline. So we'll see how it goes tonight. I didn't have my phone fully charged, and I know from past experience it needs to be fully charged to get through these things. So I put it on low battery mode. Maybe that'll help me get through it. Also, I've had problems with the Wi-Fi going out. So I'm doing everything I can. I'm on put it on airplane mode with the Wi-Fi on. And I've closed out all my other apps. Hopefully, my kids aren't going to be streaming anything too heavy that's going to interrupt anything. And let's see where the shoulder comes up. Get a measurement on that real quick. That looks like about right, but not too. The paint was too wet to get a kind of more of a definite line there. Okay. And oh, let's see if we can get a measurement here, the top of the eye, something like here. We have this dark shape here, the bridge of the nose. bit of a space before the other eye. Something like that. So I think where I have the nose drawn is definitely too high. Base of the nose is right about there. Okay, and the lips come pretty close to the bottom of his nose. See, um, Kiara's here, and oh, thank you. You're definitely one of my favorite artists. I always love to hear that. And Kiara, where are you watching from tonight? You may have told me in the past, but I don't remember things like that very well. Just kind of guessing a little bit at the contour of the face here until I can start to see it in relationship to the photo a little bit better. I kind of have to get some things down. So if you're going to compare something, you need enough things there to compare. Okay, and I kind of feel like this eye is just a tad low or not the right shape or angle to really start to see it. Okay, there we go. It's a little bit better. You got a hint of that eyebrow there. The other eyebrow comes up. It's not actually coming up, but the way the shadow is cast, it makes it feel like it's a little bit higher on that one side. Let's just darken this a little bit. A brownish color, so a little bit on the red side. So I'm just going to add in a little bit of color just to anchor things a little bit. Okay. I know I'm going to use a lot of pink in this painting, a lot of red to get that color of the candlelight. Okay, so Kiara's watching from Florida. What medium do you like to use to thin your paint? Well, I almost always use Gamblin Gamsol. It's their odorless mineral spirit. It's pretty good. You can both clean your brushes with it and mix it in the paint that you're painting without any negative effects. There was some other odorless thinners that aren't that great for actually mixing the paint. They're only a quality that's meant for just cleaning brushes. But this one's pretty good for that. And then I used to only use that, but more recently I've been using both safflower oil to thin it, and that will make the paints flow a little bit better and extend the drying time a bit. And also been using a little bit of Gal Kid in my darks where I really want them to dry a little bit shinier, and it just gives it a little more depth to the darks in the painting, where the darks normally I would have a problem with them drawing back or drawing flat, having no sheen to them. They would end up just appearing lighter, and so I wanted to get that sort of the full value range in my from my darks really getting to be like as deep a black as I could get. So kid medium does help with that because it really does give a little bit of a shine or a sheen to it, so that it looks much darker. Now with that, it does become more problematic to light the painting because of that shine. You have to make sure that you're not having a light source that's straight across from the painting, or it does the painting, it'll create some glare on the painting, and it's just harder to see the work when that happens. Now I want to start to get the colors in the nose, and I want to get some of these reds going here. Just really block in. I know that looks like a really strong color, but when everything is put down in relationships to that color, it won't look um, quite that strong. I want that even deeper red around the eyes. And there's just a little bit of the white of the eye is almost like a little purple color. See if I can get that the right value. That's kind of hard to hit. Your brain is trying to tell you that it's white or something close to white, and it's really much darker and has a lot more color in it. Let's go a little bit darker with the iris there. And then I need kind of a thin red line to get the crease in the eyelid. Something like that. Then I'm going to white reflecting in the lower lid there. I have a bit of adjusting to do there, but I'll get it eventually. I always say I'm not a great painter the first time around. It takes a few passes to get there. Okay, so this painting is really about staging more than detail or anything like that, or proportion. It's just about getting the staging of the light to work. Let's see if we can get a little closer to the right value in the lips here. A lot of orange in this upper lip. And kind of a white stripe here on the cheek. Yellow, white with a bit of yellow, orange in it. There we go. Let's try those lips again. Okay, I got a little bit of black in those lips, and I want them to be a little bit cleaner, so it's going to take a few passes of a cleaner pink to get the right color. And the upper lip here is almost disappearing into that orange in the cheek. It's just a step darker and a different hue. So let's try to get that more subtle change there. The nose looking right, I do need to come in darker here. Let's get that light that hooks around the flange of the nostril here. And then a darker grayer red right here. Okay. And this chin looks too dark now, but once I get the light, well, the highlights in it here, but I also get the dark of the neck around it. That's orange, has a little bit of an orange hue. That's a little bit too bright but let's see. Let's put it down first before I decide. And then also I have the dark background around that other cheek, and that's going to lighten up the face also. Everything is relative color relationships. You don't really see some of them until you have all the colors that surround a color. Um, have that put down before you really see what color it's going to present itself as. It's more or less not so much the color, but the value of something may look too light or too dark depending on whether you have all the darkest darks or lightest lights that are going to be near that color down first. If you're just seeing a lot of white of the panel or the canvas, then everything's going to look too dark. But once you've covered over a lot of that, then the color relationships start to look, and the value relationships start to look right. So, and then the forehead is gradating as it moves towards the top. The right value, but I need a little more color as I come down. Just a little more white in here and yellow. I have to train myself to go to yellow more often. I often find that my paintings end up being too cool in temperature because I haven't used the yellow enough, and so it just takes a little bit of a mental adjustment to get myself to go to it more. Let's lower that eyebrow just a little bit. And I want to indicate where the hairline is. So I think I've moved that bit of the hair up too high. We got a little bit of purple coming in here. Just, it's a good excuse to get a little bit more variation of color. Just really go for that purple. But we want to make sure there's a nice smooth transition between the red in the cheeks and the purple on the side. And we got a little bit of a darker crease there. And you know what? Just for fun, I'm going to stop and I'm going to throw in that highlight where the dark, let me get that dark first of his iris just a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw that reflected highlight in there. Just finish off this corner of the eye. So I want to really start to see the form and the shape of the eye, but then I'm going to throw in that highlight, which is going to give me a little bit of idea that that's a very shiny surface. Almost there. I just need to be a little patient here before I throw that in. Okay. Let's just come down a little bit lower here. And a little bit higher on the underside. See if I can get that. There's a little bit of a hatch mark there where the center of that rectangle is. Okay, that's helping me see it better. Okay, so let me just do a quick measurement of the eye too, just to make sure I'm in the right place. Got to grab some brushes. Sorry about the extra noise here. Okay, here's a nice big brush to measure. That is not too far off. Let's do from this side. It's corner of the eye. His eye just needs to move over just a little bit before I get too excited here. Well, maybe not the iris. Let's see. Yep, it just needs to move over a little. So before I get too committed here, just need to move over just a small amount here. And then the corner comes out to about there. That's looking a little bit better. And if I can see, if I follow a vertical trail here, right, the inner curve of that iris drops straight down and I get right to the corner of the mouth. Something like that. Okay. And then the nose sits right about there. Okay, so now I'm going to finally put in that highlight that I was talking about. Just one more little adjustment, get a little bit of the red in here. Highlight, highlight. Okay, so I just want to get pure white on the tip of this small brush. It's a small square, flat. I forget if it's a flat or a bright, but allows me just to get a little square. I didn't do it very well, but a little square of white there. It's a little bit bigger than I wanted, so I can disconnect. Sorry. Hello? Yeah. I don't know. My signal dropped out. I hope it hadn't gone on for too long, but it often does. At least the playback, it comes together. Hello, I'm back. I'm really sorry. I may have lost a few of you. So sorry about that. But I am back. So I'm just going to keep on going here as if nothing bad happened. And just get right back into it. Okay, for those of you who are still here, I'm sorry. Had a little bit of a dropout. I see I've gotten a couple of you back. Yeah. Downside of doing these live streams is the technical difficulties that come up. And some weeks go perfectly, and other weeks I have to like restart the video, restart the stream for it to get it to work. I'm throwing a little bit of blue, this is my phthalo blue, into the black just to give it a little more color and interest. I almost find when you have a black and you throw a transparent color in with it, it just even makes it feel darker in some respect. Gives it a little more life, and as opposed to just a straight black. I don't know why that is, but and presumably you can see the color in it just because it's a little bit lighter than black, but it does make it feel deeper somehow. Okay. I'm just talking nonsense, but hopefully it makes sense. And I can see a little bit of purple or red in this background next to so he's wearing like a black shirt, and then he's leaning against a black chair, which then is against a black counter, where I guess we're seeing underneath the countertop of some bar or table or something like that. just going to come right across with that line. But um, black um, in that area of the painting. And then I'll have to decide how I want to handle that part of the background, whether I want to simplify it or try to paint some of what's going in there on in there, or maybe paint it but make it a lot softer edges so it looks blurred. And so for his hair, I have some oranges and greens, goes up to yellow, goes over to kind of a purple, back to yellow, green, gray, purple, orange, and then a little bit towards red again. So much for simplifying the hair color, and it's just all over the map. So I'm going to come in with much stronger colors, and then I'm going to simplify it as I go. It goes a little bit redder here. There's a little bit of black along his cheek. Then it goes much darker, kind of purple here. And I'm just not, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on some of these things. I'm just going to block them in quickly because I just don't have the patience tonight. But it's fine, you know, it forces you to kind of make decisions and go with it. Try to make it look right the first time. Then I have some kind of streaky colors here. The hair comes into his face a little bit. Let's see if I can get these other bangs here. They're kind of more reddish. And then you can see some of the forehead coming in right here. Let's get it a little bit lighter. There we go. Okay, going to indicate the other eye as much as I can. There's a lot of gray around it. Go darker with the iris. And then pink up here behind it. More pink. A little bit of orange on the upper cheek here and yellow. Going a little bit gray. Got brighter pink on the cheek. And then sort of here's where the white or light values come in, where the light is hitting the underside of that cheek. So I'm going a little thicker here to try to get this area lighter and brighter. Okay, and his cheek's going to be a little more pronounced than what I have it. It's coming out just a bit further. There we go. Then we got this kind of a sweep here where it comes in a little faster. Get that transition there a little smoother. If I would slow down a little bit, I probably could do it a better job, but not in the slow down mood tonight. Okay, Jill's here, watching from Washington State. Yep, you were here last week, I think. And Hebe is watching from the Philippines. Welcome. Okay. So I guess it's sometime in the afternoon, probably in the Philippines, or late morning, probably. Not certain. I know in Australia it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe. Okay, got a little purple going here in this top corner of his head. And then we got yellows and oranges. Hopefully all these color changes will make sense. We got a lot of red and orange right in here. And then more yellow. Boy, this hair is a bit of a workout. When I picked the photo, I was more looking at the face to figure out how difficult it was going to be. I wasn't really paying attention to the hair. Okay, that's that color there. Comes up. And then we get almost a black here in the underneath the locks of hair. So I feel like I need to make his chin a bit longer. Don't have to do a perfect match, but it helps if you're kind of in the ballpark. Helps you really start to see things. Round out the shirt collar a little bit. And then pull this color up a bit higher. And then he's got a little bit of a more kind of like a white reflection right on the tip of his nose there. And you can see little places where there's stronger shadow, where something's kind of blocking out the light more. Yellows, darker yellow, kind of has a little bit of black in it. There we go. And then we have a little bit even of a darker color, reds, magenta there. Got the red color for the white of the eye here. Little adjustment to make sure his features are kind of in the right place. Lost the white around his nose there. And then it has a little bit of red around it, kind of a transitional color before it goes in the shadow. Let's try to get that in, kind of like a stripe transition. If I could paint the whole painting in kind of stripes of colors, I would if I can manage that. It's better than trying to blend. Has a much better look than if you try to blend with the brush all the colors together. You can make the top of this cheek a little bit darker. Get even more purple there. And see if I can get a little more pink in the light pink in the cheek here to make it feel like the transition's a little smoother. Yeah. Try to go a bit lighter. There we go. So at some point, if I get these values right in the placement, then you start to see a little more dimension in the forms. It's a little bit lighter here in the front of the chin, and should be darker and redder in the neck. And I'm going to pull this eyebrow down a little bit. Got it kind of getting a little wild there. A little shock of purple there. And then some red on this end of the eyebrow. And let's improve the shape of that eyelid. Then we got this very light pink on his upper lip here. Oh, so much for light pink. Actually, they're not too bad. Okay, and I'm going to make this a little bit of a tighter line here, harder edge. And this just comes down a little bit lower. Correcting those, the shape of the mouth a little. Okay, so let me see. Jill's, okay, I've missed some of these. Debbie says, message retried, she says, watching from southern India, Indiana rather. Jill says, hair is one of those things I keep telling myself I will work on, but then I don't have too much patience for it. I can never sit through a pet portrait, lol. And Aaron says, watching from Iowa, welcome. Jill says, I have a long way to go before I watch all your videos, so excuse me, but do you ever do gouache or watercolor? No, I just stick to oils. That's I think I'm at the point in my life where I know what works for me, and so I just go with that. Um, in school, I did all the experimenting with different mediums that I care to do, and now I'm an oil painter guy. Occasionally, I've done some in the recent past. I've done some charcoal drawing stuff, but um, really, it takes me about the same amount of time to do an oil painting as it would for me to do a drawing in charcoal. So I just go with the oil painting. There's a little bit of purple in the neck here. And let's improve the shape here of the shirt collar. Get a little better transition in the neck here. Lighter. Lighter orange, pink. Okay, that's looking a little better. Let's clean up this purple a little bit. And there's going to be a little bit of yellow here. Oops. Yeah, I got it mixed up with the black in the shirt. That isn't what I wanted. Okay, not too bad. Okay, and I'm going to come in for the fourth time along the edge of that nose with yellow and white. And Jill says, well, your oil painting is fabulous, so keep on trucking. Well, thank you. I think there's a time where you experiment as much as you can and you take a lot of risks and you work outside your comfort zone because that's how you learn things. And um, keep on doing it so that things that you do become more repeatable. If you want to get a certain effect and you do it, you repeat it so many times that then you have the confidence to do it anytime that you need to. And that's sort of the value of working within your comfort zone and just the repetition of doing something well and improving it. And at some point you can nail it every time. I'm not saying that's where I am with everything, but certain aspects of the painting I just kind of feel like I know where I'm going and I know how to get there, and so I don't really have to think about it that much. Okay, now I have to do quite a bit of adjusting around the mouth. His teeth, which are kind of a yellowish white here, but don't really look like his teeth are yellow. It more has to do with the light itself. And clean this up a little. And then his upper lip comes up there. And I'm trying to make this as clean and graphic as I can, where I see stripes or blocks of color as clean as possible. And the purple here needs to go a bit darker. this cheek actually drops down just a little bit lower than what I have it. No, I think it was about right there. Trying to get that color, that corner of the eye to look right. A little measurement here. That looks pretty close. So this corner has to start sooner. Then we got a bit of orange and white going up here. And with red around it. And we've got to pull the iris up a little bit higher. And then indicate where the crease of the eyelid is again. So Debbie says, what surface are you painting on? I paint on a gessoed panel. They're smooth panels. These are made by Speedball. They're called Mona Lisa panels. They're very inexpensive on Dick Blick's website. And so this particular panel, this is a 9 by 12. It cost $1.50 or something like that, or $1.75, I think. Whereas a lot of other brands, they would be closer to $10. So um, they are a little bit too slick for oil paints, but I put a layer of gesso on, and that slap it on pretty quickly, and it is just right for me. I am out of white, so I need to get a little bit more white on my palette. And I know I have a bunch of tubes here. Let me see. This one looks like it's almost out, but let's see if I can get a little more paint out of it. Yep. And I need to order some more paint this week. I'm surprised that I don't go through more paint than I do. Over Christmas, I've had 7 or 8 painting commissions, and I did a lot of painting and managed to not run out of any paint. So not sure quite how I did that, but was keeping an eye on it though. There's nothing worse than trying to do a painting and not have the color that you need. Crease the lower eyelid here, and then the light reflecting into it up there. Just trying to indicate it. And I'm trying to get this cheek to look a little bit deeper red. Okay, I need to clean up some of these transitions here. They are looking a little too stripy. A little bit of hard to get this lip color right. And then we have have some kind of shadow happening here on the upper lip. And a little bit of a light stripe along the top of the lip. Let's see if I can get that to read. So Debbie says, probably silly question, but do you apply gesso with a brush? Just have always painted on prepared panels. So yeah, I have a bristle brush. It's a little bit on the stiff side, um, and I probably could use a little bit of softer brush, which so I wouldn't get the brush marks on. But I've been using that one brush for the last couple hundred panels, and it's done just in the jar of gesso with a little bit of water in the brush, and then you then cover the surface with the gesso. And some people then come back and sand it a little. I've done that at times, but I think I like to have so the gesso does two things. It makes the surface more absorbent, and it also gives it tooth to help grab the paint. And I think people confuse the two, tooth and absorbency, but they're two separate qualities, and you want to have control over both of them. And if it's too absorbent, then it's just going to pull all the oil out of the paint, and it's when you hear that really kind of rough, scratchy, like dry skin kind of sound. Um, and the tooth itself is kind of the texture of the surface. And that's something different than the absorbency. You can have tooth, and in fact, these panels do have a bit of a texture to them when you buy them new, but they're very slick. They're almost like plasticky kind of surface, and that's why you need the gesso so that you can actually get the paint then to adhere to the surface. Otherwise, you're in a bit of trouble because I did a painting on one of these panels before, and I hadn't put another layer of gesso down, and I was having really hard time getting the under layers of paint not to get picked up by the brush as I did each successive pass. And I got so frustrated, eventually I just decided to wipe all the paint off. And the panel was so slick that when I wiped the paint off, none of the paint at all had absorbed into the surface at all. It just wiped completely clean. And so that was enough to make me realize, like, no, I can't paint on this surface without on it. Okay, do you want to get a little bit brighter, cleaner, and lighter pink right in here in the cheek? That's going to take a little work. And I have two different color reds that I'm working with. I have a naphthol red and a quinacridone red. Quinacridone red is cooler. The naphthol red is a little bit orangey and warmer. And when I add white, it tends to have a little bit of a cooling effect. So I need to then maybe come in, grab a little bit of orange to kind of balance it out. Here, get a little bit more orange showing here in that light. Let's get a little bit of yellow in there. Yep, that looks much better. Okay, yeah, there. Okay, those transitions are starting to look right. See if I can get the same on the other cheek. shape of the teeth a little bit better and cleaner. Now, the teeth are a tough thing for most people. The crease and separation and every bit of the gum line and delineate each tooth, and it usually rarely ends up looking right. You kind of want to group shapes together to get the teeth almost as you're painting them as one large unit. And then you can start adding a little more detail if it needs it. Um, so I don't really have to do too much more with the teeth than that, and you get the idea of the teeth. It's when you start putting too much detail in that it really does kind of start to look odd. Okay, and his lower lip is a little plumper than what I put, and cleaner. The red is much cleaner. See if I can get that color here. And then it goes lighter and very pink with a little bit of a darker lower edge. Okay, that's looking a lot better. And then I've got to go much darker in the gap between the teeth and the lips. And the same on the other side. Okay, and I'm going to throw in, let's get a little more of the iris there. And I'm going to throw in a highlight just like I did on the other eye. Even if I end up repainting it later, it is helpful to kind of use as an idea of the quality of the surface of the eye and to start to see it and feel it. Okay, so let's get this detail brush a little cleaner, get just a nice clean piece of white on it. I can just lay it on top right in that spot. And I'm going to re-hit this other one. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, I think we're in a good place. Okay, so what is the difference between oil primed and universal acrylic primed panels? So an oil primed panel uses a primer that's an oil base. An acrylic or a universal prime panel uses acrylic, and the reason why it's universal is you really can't paint with acrylic paints over an oil primed panel because the oil will then seep through from the panel and through the paint. The oil wants to escape. You can paint oils over oil prime. Um, that's compatible, but everything is compatible with the acrylic primer. So, and I just like the acrylic primer. It's real easy to use and does the job. So I don't really bother trying to oil prime anything. Plus, I usually am trying to prime my panels like within an hour of actually painting. Sometimes I don't have enough, the right size panel primed yet. And so if it were oil primed, you would need a lot more time for drawing. Trying to just get, there's this little light that comes off. There's a little bit of fatty tissue around the tear duct there. Sorry, I lost my connection again. Wasn't paying attention. And so Kiara also asked, "Do you use Gamblin oils?" And yes, all the colors that I use are Gamblin oil paints. Sorry, I blacked out again. I mean, not personally, but my signal went out, and so I don't really have a spotter, someone here to tell me the spinning, um, loading signal going on my screen. But I seem to be back. I lost a few of you again, or at least that's what YouTube is telling me. But not sure if that's actually true. I think some people know that I'll go out and then it'll take me a little while to figure it out, and then I'm back. It's usually less time than the average commercial interruption on streaming services. Okay, so I said I was going to clean up his hair a little. Let's get to that. Um, I'm not sure if Kiara, if you heard me that I use Gamblin paints and um, been using them really for several years now, maybe going on 10, 15 years. I used to, as a student, I would just buy whatever color was the cheapest or whatever I could get my hands on, and then um, I just like the consistency of Gamblin paints, and I like their philosophy of how they develop their colors and the um, their idea of creating traditional oils and modern colors, but using all the science that they have to bear to try to create the best version of each color. They're not simulations. If they want to try to match a color, they try to do it any way they can, but also um, trying to keep the toxins in the paint to a minimum and to create the best user experience in terms of the artist. So if older formulations used to make it very difficult to paint, they've found easier, better, more light fast, and less toxic ways of getting those same colors. And they're often hired by museums to match colors for painting restoration. So they really have to do their homework with that kind of stuff to make something integrate well with the existing paint that's in an older painting. Okay, and let's see, I need a little bit of a blue-gray or something for the background so that I can clean up the outer um, silhouette of the hair. Don't have this sitting real well. That's better. Oops, sorry about that, bumping into the camera. Okay, I want that background a little bit thicker. Got a little bit too thin and runny. In fact, I don't really want it to be thin at all. I really do want it to be thick paint in the background. Yeah, I just was just about to dip my paint in the thinner and my brush into the thinner, but I'm really trying to keep the paint thick, so I resisted doing sort of that automatic dipping that I do. So I really want some light or white to come into here. Okay, I need to clean off the brush a little bit. Then I dried it so that I'm not adding any thinner to the paint. Get a little more purples and blues here in the background. Okay, so I have these reds coming in much darker here, and then the hairline's a little bit higher where his hair is dropping down behind him. I keep on saying him, but this could also be a girl. I just don't really know. Um, I just assumed from the general features, but it could. Um, well, maybe now I'm not sure because I think the caption did say grandson. I think. So I think that's right. I do think it's a boy. But forgive me if I'm wrong. A little bit of sprigs of red in here. Then we're seeing quite a bit of red in the skin of the forehead. And then a bit of green in here. So I got to get there with black to get the right value. Okay. I don't think I'm going to go as long as I usually do because this is coming together pretty quickly. And I like some of the simplicity of the marks in the face, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to perfectly match the photo. Just going to make sure that I have clean enough marks. says thank you. You're welcome. Just going to indicate where the nostril is here, just to try to get that red enough. There we are. And then going to make the top of his nose just a bit rounder if I can. That's a hard color to hit though. Connect. Sorry again, lost that connection. Have lost connection. Just want to say how much I enjoyed watching you, and thanks so much for answering to my questions. Hope to see you next time. Okay, well I think I got the connection back again. Sorry, but I'm only going to be going on for about 10 more minutes, and then this will be done. And it's going to be one of those quicker paintings. I think the fact that there's just not a whole lot of detail in the resource image that I'm just going to cover over some of this white in a brushy kind of way. Yeah, I'm just going to put down a few more strokes just to clean up certain areas, but overall it is looking pretty good. I don't want to do too much, so this is where I can maybe slow down a little bit, make sure that I don't overpaint. Sorry, just had a little indigestion there. That will be permanently part of my video collection. Okay, and we have a little bit of a lighter area here. And this cheek. Not getting the shape of that cheek right quite yet, but it's helpful. It's got a little bit of a lighter light on the farthest edge of it. And I can cut that a little bit tighter. Okay, so what does it need? So I think just a few more streaks in the hair here. And that little bit of shadow that's behind the eyebrow. And I think you're going to make his lower lip just a little bit fatter here. as it does. I had his teeth coming down a little bit too low. That wasn't looking right. Then I'm going to exaggerate the highlight there just a little bit on his lip. There we go. And just a little bit more on the cheek, getting that shape. It's very subtle. Okay. I don't think the background's too distracting. Let's get a little bit darker here, coming down. And just get a little more red in there. Okay, I think that's pretty much going to do it. Let's get a little bit of a lighter red on the leading edge of that brow. There. Okay, so I am saying that this is done. So thank you all for watching, and this was one of the quicker sketches. Got this done in about an hour and a half, and I will post it to my Instagram page. Just want to say, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. And I'm gonna fix one little thing, but okay, signed, delivered, and it's just a small thing, but the way that eyelid comes out a little bit, it just felt like he was lifting his eye a little bit too much. So thank you all for tuning in, and like I said, if you're not subscribed to my channel and you want to get notifications when I post a new video or go live, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and hope you have a pleasant evening.